made it to Friday, and the stress came with you. It has been here since Monday, maybe longer. The low-grade tension that settled into the body somewhere around Tuesday and never quite left. The shoulders that are still carrying what the difficult conversation deposited. The jaw that tightened during the uncertain moment and has not fully unclenched since. The breath that is still shallow from the week that required too much for too long. You managed it. You got through. You showed up every day and gave what the days required. And the stress collected in the places the managing did not reach, the interior places, the body, the part of you that absorbs what the performance of adequacy does not have time to process. Friday is the release, not the managing, not the getting through one more day, the actual releasing of what the week deposited in you before the weekend begins. Because here is what happens if the releasing does not happen. Saturday gets what Friday is still holding, and Saturday was designed for something else. It was designed for rest and presence, and the people who deserve the version of you that is not still in Thursday's stress. This prayer is the releasing right now, before the Friday has added its final layer, before the weekend inherits what the releasing could have taken. His word declares in the book of Matthew, chapter 11, verse 28, that Jesus says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Not manage your burden better, not help you carry it more efficiently. Give you rest. The rest is given. The burden is received, and the exchange happens when the weary person comes before the coming situation improves. Before we enter this prayer, write in the comments right now, "Lord, I release what this week deposited in me. I give you the stress before the weekend begins." Write it as the transfer, the handing over of what the week put in the body, and the interior before the weekend is asked to carry it too. Like this video as an act of choosing the releasing over the continued holding. Subscribe to this channel so we can begin every morning together, especially the Fridays when the week's accumulated stress is sitting right there, and the releasing is what the weekend needs before it can begin. Share this prayer with someone whose Friday is still holding Monday's stress. Now let us release what the week has been building in us. Lord, my God and my Father, I come before you on this Friday morning, and I name where the stress has been living this week. It has been in the body, the specific places the week found and claimed, the back of the neck that tightened when the news arrived that changed the plan, the chest that got heavier when the situation revealed what it was actually going to require, the stomach that has been carrying the worry about the outcome that has not yet resolved. The body has been holding what the mind was managing, and on a Friday morning, the body is honest about the week in a way the managing mind was not permitted to be. I release the body stress now, the neck, the chest, the stomach, the jaw that has been clenched, and the shoulders that have been raised, and the hands that have been gripped around what they cannot control. Right now, in this prayer, one breath, and I open the hands, and I lower the shoulders, and I give the body what it could not give itself through the week. The body has been faithful this week too. It showed up and sat through the difficult meetings and stood in the uncomfortable moments and stayed present when staying present cost something. The body absorbed all of it without complaint. It just held it. And now it is time to release what the body absorbed on behalf of everything that could not be processed in real time. Your word declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 31, verse 9, that "Be merciful to me, Lord, for I am in distress. My eyes grow weak with sorrow, my soul and body with grief." Soul and body together. The relief asked for reaches both. God is not a God of the spiritual interior only. He receives the body's held stress as surely as the soul's, the neck and the stomach and the jaw and the back. All of it. Received, specifically. The stress has also been in the relationships, the tension from the exchange that was not clean, the words that landed differently than they were meant to, the person who is still in the same position they were in on Monday, despite the investment in moving them towards something better. The relational weight, that collected through 5 days of giving more than it returned. I release the relational stress now, the tension from the unclean exchange, the weight of the outcome I could not control, the disappointment of the investment that did not produce the visible return. I give you the relationships that are still unresolved. I give you the people I am still carrying. They are yours. They were always yours. I am releasing what was never mine to hold this tightly. And there is something that the releasing of the relational stress makes possible that the holding prevents. The seeing of what was good in the week's relationships alongside what was difficult. The held stress narrows the view. It sees the unresolved and the unclean and the disappointing. The released view is wider, the genuine moments of connection that happened this week alongside the difficult ones. The person who was hard, who also, in one moment, showed something real. The investment that did not produce the visible return, but that gave something to the person who received it, even if the receiving was not acknowledged. The releasing opens the view. And the wider view is closer to the truth of what the week's relationships actually were. Your word declares in the book of 1 Peter, chapter 5, verse 7, to cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. Cast all. Not the portion I have decided is spiritually appropriate to give. All. The body stress and the relational stress and the work stress and the forward-looking stress about what next week will require. All of it. Cast into the hands that were designed to receive it and that actually care about what happens to it. Father, I want to stay with the casting for a moment, because casting is a full-body act. You do not cast something carefully. You do not cast something while maintaining a grip on it. Casting requires the full release. The object leaves the hand entirely, and the person who cast it is no longer responsible for where it lands. That is what this prayer is, the full release, not the careful handing over where I watch to make sure it is being held correctly. The cast into God's hands, and then I open my hands and they are empty, and the empty hands are free to receive what Friday has to give, to hold the people of the weekend with the gentleness that the clenched hands were too tight to offer, to be open. You gave this week with full hands. Now the full hands release what they were holding, and the empty hands are the gift the weekend has been waiting for. Your word declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 37, verse 5, to commit your way to the Lord. Trust in him, and he will do this. Commit, that is another word for cast. The full release of the direction and the outcome and the unresolved things and the relationships and the body and the interior. All of it committed, trusted, released. Lord, I release what this week deposited in me. I give you the stress before the weekend begins, and here is what happens when the release is real. The body starts to follow. The shoulders that were raised begin to drop. The breath that was shallow begins to deepen. The jaw that was clenched begins to soften. The body is not separate from the interior. When the interior releases, the body follows. And the physical releasing is not the performance of relaxation. It is the body catching up to what the prayer just did. Take a breath right now, a full one. Breathe out the week, the accumulated stress that the body absorbed and never had time to process. Let the breath carry it out. In this prayer, before the Friday asks for anything else, this is what releasing feels like. Not dramatic, like putting down a weight you didn't realize you had been holding. Lord, I want to ask for something about what the released person receives that the holding person cannot. The weekend, the actual weekend, the one that was designed for something other than the continuation of the week in a different location. The person who released the stress before the weekend received a different Saturday from the person who carried the stress across the threshold intact. Saturday receives the released person as someone who is actually there, who is present to the morning rather than still processing Tuesday, Who can receive the people who share the weekend with the quality of attention that the clenched holding person does not have available? The child who comes to the parent on Saturday morning gets the released parent, the full attention, the eyes that are actually on the child rather than slightly past the child toward the unfinished week, the presence that is actually present. That is the gift the releasing creates for the people who did not benefit from the week's best hours, and the released person receives the rest that rest was designed to provide, not the recovery of the person who simply stopped working, the actual restoration, the soul that finds what the Psalms describes. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. The restoring requires the lying down. The lying down requires the releasing. And the releasing is what this prayer is. Your word declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 31, that those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. Soar, not recover adequately. Soar. The renewed strength of the released person is not the mere restoration of what the week spent. It is the upgrade, the soaring version, available to the person who released what was never going to be replaced by holding. There is something about the image of soaring that the week's stress prevents. Stress is a downward gravity. It presses the person into the ground of what is urgent and difficult and unresolved. Soaring requires the release from that gravity. And the release from that gravity is what this prayer is. The released person does not just recover. They rise, not immediately, over the weekend that receives the released person. The Saturday that begins with the low-grade lifting of the stress having been given away. The Sunday that receives a person who rested genuinely because Friday's releasing made the resting possible. And the Monday that begins from that altitude is not the Monday that the held through the weekend person begins. Release and receive in that order. Lord, I release what this week deposited in me. I give you the stress before the weekend begins. Father, I want to name what Friday releasing builds over time. The person who releases every Friday is a different person from the person who carries each week's stress into the next week intact. Not because their life is easier, because the accumulation does not compound. The person who carries last week's stress into this week is already at a deficit before Monday asks for anything. The stress they are managing is the current week's plus the previous week's plus every week that was carried forward unreleased. The compound stress, the kind that makes a moderately difficult Thursday feel like a catastrophe because the Thursday is being felt through the accumulated weight of everything that was never released. The person who releases every Friday starts every Monday from zero, not from abundance, from zero. The clean start, the actual beginning, the week that gets to be the week it is, rather than the week plus, the residue of everything that was not released before it. This is the rhythm. Give through the week, release at its end, receive from the rest, begin again. Over time, the releasing builds the capacity for the giving. Because the giving is not compounding on itself. It is being released and restored, week after week. That is the sustainable life, not the heroic holding on, the faithful releasing. Your word declares in the book of Lamentations, chapter 3, verse 22 through 23, that because of the Lord's great love we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. New every morning. The stress of this week released into the new compassions of next week. The faithfulness that is great enough to hold what is released and to provide what is new. The great cycle. Give, release, receive, begin. That is Friday. That is this Friday. That is what this prayer is. And I want to name one thing before the releasing is complete. The gratitude, not the performed gratitude of the person who knows they should be grateful, the honest gratitude of the person who looks back at the week from the Friday morning and receives what was actually there. The week had hard things. And the week had grace in it too. The moment that turned out better than feared. The person who surprised you with more than you expected from them. The small evidence that the faithfulness of the showing up is producing something even when the producing is not yet visible. The grace was there. Running alongside the stress was louder. The grace was real. Receive both. The honest Friday accounting. The stress is real, and so was the grace. Both. And the releasing of the stress does not dismiss the grace. It makes room for the grace to be received alongside the releasing. The honest Friday, the whole thing, given to God. Your word declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 103, verse 2, to praise the Lord, my soul, and forget not all his benefits. Forget not, the benefits were there this week, in the week that is being released, worth naming before the releasing is complete, worth receiving, worth carrying into the weekend as evidence that the week, for all its cost, was not only cost. Lord, I release what this week deposited in me. I give you the stress before the weekend begins. Father, as this prayer closes, I want to receive something very simple for the weekend ahead. Permission. Permission to actually rest. Not productive rest. Not strategic recovery. Not the weekend that sets up next week more efficiently. The rest that is just rest. The Saturday that is given to what Saturday is for. The people. The unhurried hours, the walk in the May air, the conversation that has nowhere to be, the meal that is eaten slowly enough to taste it. You made the seventh day for rest, not as an afterthought, as a design principle. The God who made the universe rested on the seventh day and built the resting into the week as a requirement, not a luxury, a requirement. And the releasing is what makes the resting possible. Because the resting of the person who is still holding the stress is not rest. It is holding in a horizontal position. Do you know what actual rest feels like? It feels like no longer having to manage something. The relief of a weight set down, the exhale that is not strategic, the moment when the mind is not running the next thing, that is what the releasing creates. And it is available right now, before the weekend. Before Saturday has to try to produce it through sufficient activity or sufficient recovery. The rest is available in the releasing. The weekend is freed by what this prayer is doing right now. The permission is real. Go actually rest. Not efficiently, just rest. Release before the rest begins. That is this prayer. That is this morning. That is the gift you are giving your weekend right now. Your word declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 4, verse 8, that in peace I will lie down and sleep. For you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety. In peace. The peace that follows the releasing. The sleep that is actual sleep, rather than the sleep of the person who is still processing Thursday. In safety. Not because all threats have been removed, because the one who holds what was released is holding it through the night. That is the weekend being prepared right now. In this releasing, in this prayer, in the cast that sent what was held into the hands that were designed to receive it. Go rest, friend. You gave the week something real, and now the week is done, and the weekend is here, and the stress has been given to God, and the hands are open, and that is enough. Lord, I release what this week deposited in me. I give you the stress before the weekend begins. That is the Friday declaration. The week is given. The stress is released. The weekend receives the person who put it down before Saturday inherited it. And the God who holds what was released holds it through the whole weekend, through the rest, through the restoration, through the new compassions of Monday morning. To everyone who prayed with me this morning, go back to the comments and write it one final time. Lord, I release what this week deposited in me. I give you the stress before the weekend begins, and then let it go. Actually, let it go. The hands are open. The cast is complete. The weekend is yours. Subscribe to this channel and come back tomorrow morning. We are here every day, including the Saturdays that receive what the released Friday prepared. Share this prayer with someone whose Friday needs the releasing before the weekend inherits the stress intact. May the Lord receive everything this week deposited in you with the full care of the one who was in every moment the depositing happened. May the body follow where the prayer led, and the shoulders drop and the jaw soften and the breath deepen. May the weekend receive the person who released rather than the person who held. And may you discover somewhere in the Saturday that the soaring feels more possible than the holding ever let it. In Jesus' name, amen.